Hello everyone and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 245. Today is Sunday, September 16th, 2018, and I'm glad you could join me today. I'm really tired. It's been intense. And it's been actually a little bit funny to gather everything nearby, because it's like, where did I leave off? So obviously enough, I didn't record last week because I mixed up my weekends. So last weekend I was in Denver and I came back late. This weekend I was in Michigan and I came back early enough to take care of crap. So, as a result, recording today should be good. And there's probably a lot to show you guys. Like, it's a good thing that I probably had a lot of this nearby. Because where I left off was like Labor Day weekend, and that was a lot of fun. I did more fibery fun stuff than usual for a weekend because I had an extra day. It was great. So, and there's all sorts of stuff because I haven't like properly unpacked my bag, so like the phone charger. The phone might even be in here. No. Who knows where the phone is? It's a mystery. I probably don't need the phone, so it should be okay. So, there was quite a lot of knitting time to be had. Would it be with all the travel? I ended up having, quite a few I had a very short work week. As you do, whatever. So, it wasn't, we can probably get to the end of the road for you guys. Yeah, because I ended up needing to take the day off. Okay, I think we got it figured out now. I ended up taking both Fridays off in addition to having the Monday off, and that's an awful lot of knitting time. Sadly, none of my flights were true direct flights, so it was also special as well. So what I'm working on finishing off a row on is on the Spice Market, which is a Melanie Burke pattern. I am close to being done. I am inclined to believe that this project will be done next week, just depending on how much knitting time I end up getting and that sort of stuff. But I did manage to basically do about what I have left during like the 2.5 hour leg of my flight, so it seems positive, it seems possible, and I'm pretty close to the end of the row because it'll be a lot easier to show you guys that way. So, interestingly enough, I don't think that I've made a Ravelry project page for this, so I should probably fix that because it's almost over. I have like pictures on Instagram that don't have a home. I foolishly did not end up taking pictures at the beach with it, which would have made a lot of sense considering my inspiration for the project was Lake Michigan. So I had a chance to dip my toes into the water. Some research showed that the lake temperature was 57, which is pretty uncomfortable. So I got somewhat in, but not all the way in, because that's not pleasant. It was not cold during the trip. air temperature wise, but water temperature wise. And I did end up getting some more boxy photos, so I got to make use of my sisters, who are much more persnickety about photos than I am. So that was nice. I think I put all of the outtakes on Instagram if you're interested in seeing everything. Apparently the key was the head-on shot, so I had to be staring into the sun, and then my face didn't have awkward shadows. As you do. So, almost there. So that was nice. Got to do a little bit of sandcastle building. And then I took a lovely nap. So, too many early morning flights. I can probably... So, I have worked, or I'm in my 5th of 6 colors in the last sort of section of the pattern. I made an interesting discovery as I made an interesting discovery 2 weeks ago, in which I realized that my gauge was way tighter than the pattern called for, and that I was going to have a lot of extra yarn. So I thought I was going to actually do more of these middle section repeats. And here's sort of the first part of the shawl, and then the second part of the shawl, and the third part, which is going through the gradient again. But what I ended up deciding to do was just to make this third part of the shawl longer, so I figured that I actually had about 30% more yarn that I needed, but not enough of the bright teal to sort of play with the sort of star stitch section. There we go. You can see. I'm like trying to also not dip it in the coffee. So, oops, I'm all backwards. So this is a little bit longer than called for, and even then I think I'm making it even longer than that. So you have like little blips of the teal in between each color, which is pretty nice. Definitely a shawl of contrast for sure. So I'm working the second lightest color now, and I will launch into the lightest color pretty soon. This one's going to be a little complicated, so for reference, here's the lightest color and how much of the lightest color I have, which I've forgotten the name. It's okay. And then this is how much of like the darkest color I have. So I managed to get quite a lot of it used. I don't think I could have gone away with too much more from that guy. And then I still have a pretty decent amount of this teal. When I last weighed it, it was 26 grams, and I realized at that point I couldn't, it was taking about 4 grams in between each of the little star stitch things, and that didn't divide by 7. It was like 4, or it was either 4 or 6 grams in between, so it was like, crap. And then I needed that for the section in between, so it's like, okay, I'll just accept the fact that I have some of this cool, lovely extra teal yarn and go with that. So, really close now, which is exciting. And I was afraid that it was going to be too small, because it was not quite wingspan. You can see I'm holding it here, but I've added quite a lot of length now, so now it is more than wingspan, which is how I like my shawls. So it'll be a good size. So if I'm wingspan here, then I'm probably 9 inches past that now, and I'll be a little bit further before the end. I'm just puzzling whether or not I also want to go off pattern again and put on a few bind off in the teal instead. I'm not sure. I guess I have some time to decide. Or at least a little bit of time to decide. So, coming along nicely. I think the effect in the patterns may be a little bit less dramatic by having more rows of the gradient, but I'm okay with that. The dark brown probably is a little bit bigger than it needs to be because I sort of improvised a bit. Whatever. So, coming along nicely. So this is a Miss Babs Beachcomber gradient, and then the main color is Miss Babs Hot Shot in a Wild Irish color, so non-repeatable. I believe it was Sea Siren, if it ever does come up again. And it is quite the tangle in my bag. Like, I don't know how I'm going to make this work. Alright, keys. I think that was most of what was keeping everything attached, unless there's like a ball of yarn in here. Well, there's several balls of yarn in here. Okay, we're free. Yay. It's getting a little touch and go. Alright. We'll put that there. That would be mostly out of the way. So, boxy got worn. I made more use of my exploration station in Denver. Then this trip, I didn't even pull out my Simplicity cardigan, but I did pack it in case it was needed. And I do have my scale and bowl. I was ready. So, I think where I left you guys off last time was that I was still knitting the straps of my mini dress, which is the Caddy Leadbetter pattern that I'm knitting out of Fibra Natura Flax, which is a linen yarn. But I'm going to have to rip this sleeve out. So I did knit the sleeve, got it bound off at the end, and it is lopsided. Apparently I picked up more stitches in the back than the front, and so it is really awkward. So the halfway point of my bind off is off, and I should have known at that point that something was wrong. So I'm like somewhere like 3 or 4 stitches off from halfway, which would say I'm probably 2 stitches off on my pickup, which seems plausible. Or that I had 2 stitches extra on one side or something like that. So I'm going to have to rip out this sleeve, but it does give it more structure for the top. So I ended up seaming this together. I ended up, doing it on the wrong side because that seemed to hide a lot better. Or effectively what ended up happening was that it was a much more exposed seam the other way. So this way seemed to look right, at least to me. But I'll have to restart the sleeve, sadly. Alas. I think I've been sleep deprived enough that I really just haven't had the headspace to try to figure out what I needed to do differently. So I have seamed up the sides. I have really long tails so that I can also do the rest of the seam. And things are pretty even. Seem to be decent. That's sort of the case where you're just sort of work it gently as you go. So I was pretty happy with how it was fitting. You can definitely see how see-through it is. And the sleeve's not entirely done, but I'm gonna have to rip out anyways. So waist is at the waist. It seems like there's some extra fabric in the back, but hopefully that's not gonna be a big deal. And you can see the very pretty vertical stripe going on. And then there is a bit more knitting on the sleeve, so you end up seaming it up a little bit, so that would sort of bring it in, and then it has like a little edging treatment on it. I'm planning on picking up in white all the way around the neckline, and then doing this edging in the bright teal to sort of mirror what's happening, for example, like on the stripe. So I think that'll look really cute and not use the blue, because the limiting factor is the blue yarn. I will be in Nashville in about a month, so if I needed to get more of this yarn, I think it's a possibility, but I think I can make it work otherwise. We'll see. So far so good. Definitely the sort of top where I would need to wear a tank top underneath it, though. So, coming along nicely. It's currently not on needles, but it will probably be going back on pretty soon. So, this project's slightly dangerous. So I wanted to get the sleeve on. You can sort of see, I don't know, I guess it isn't too much yarn usage for that little sleeve cap thing, so not too crazy, but it's coming along. I haven't had the most headspace for it, but such is life. I was irritated that it didn't work out. Crazy making. So what I'm probably going to do is rip out the sleeve, probably pre-pick up the stitches and count so that I can sort of choose where I have more or less stitches located. I ended up making it a little bit longer than the pattern called for. It looks like I could make it longer yet, even, because it's like a cap sleeve style shaping sort of thing. And I ended up going with actually just following the patterns written, even though it involved some seaming, for like the structure argument, because you could see how binding off would give it quite a lot more structure. In the way they call for, so you're sort of working external, or what would it be? It'd be the case where you go around back and forth, and then you start binding off the last stitches. So you could probably do a similar thing with like holders and markers and that sort of thing, but whatever. Figure it out. Okie doke. So I haven't done too much spinning recently. Last week was pretty busy, so I didn't end up getting a lot of time at the wheel. It's a little bit of a tight fit today. But this is how far I am on my Persephone spin. So this is Nest Fiber in the Superwash Merino Silk. And this is a club colorway from sometime. I'm not sure whether or not it's released yet. But it is also, reminds me of Lake Michigan. So it has sort of like a peachy brown, and then more of a greeny brown, and then like light blues, teals. So coming along, the plan is to chain ply, and I still have quite a lot of fiber left. I was accidentally drafting the fiber on the stairs, which was silly. So I have the rest of the fiber that came off in my pocket. So it seemed to take a decent amount off because it fell off as I was it fell off as I was carrying the wheel up the stairs. So looks like that'll mostly hold. So pleasant spin. I just haven't had a lot of free time this week, just because of the fact that it was a short week last week, and I didn't have a weekend, so it makes it more challenging. So, still a lot of fiber left to go on this spin. But I did end up doing a lot of fiber prep since I have podcasted last. So I have the fleece I bought in 2014. It is a Corriedale Cross, Shetland Cross BFL. So quarter BFL, quarter Shetland, 50% Corriedale. And I have been working on processing this fleece for quite some time. I didn't start properly, like it was clean, at some point, some reasonable amount of time after I bought it, and I'm sort of in the process of making everything ready to go for a spinning project. So I last did a lot of work on this project in last December, because part of it was included in my bin, so I ended up dyeing it with the Wilton's Violet that broke into like teals and pinks. But I didn't have really good saturation, so then earlier this summer I took that teal and pink fiber and overdyed it blue by using the sun when it was like 104 outside. And this is the hackle waist, because when I dyed it, my top was not very nice anymore. It was all twisted up. So I used the hackle to open everything up again and pull a new top. And so this is my pile of waste, which looks sort of like a interesting teal pelt. When I dyed it more blue, you can also see, I think, some of the purples and greens in there as well. Like, it's a very subtle amount of green. Like, I'd only noticed it under the studio lights. And then you can sort of see the back has like all sorts of naps and craziness in it. So that was the part of the fiber that did not want to save. But I am much happier with this sort of tealy color. And then this is the other thing of waste, because it took 2 runs on the hackle. I don't know if I overfilled it or something, but it was definitely pretty challenging to get everything off. I didn't try seeing whether or not I could get anything more out of these. I'll probably end up carding them when the time comes. So for the moment, they're just going to be crazy little woolly pelts, but I do like how all of the subtle colors that are sort of contained in it. And I have 2 very large bags of top, which I have made no attempt of organizing, so that is 1/2 of the fiber, roughly speaking. And then here is the other half. So you can definitely see like little streaks of like green and purple in this. The fiber was originally, or this fiber was the darkest gray color, so I think now I've gotten good saturation, good penetration, everything that I wanted with respect to the dye job. I just had to be a bit more aggressive with how much, because I did have a decent amount of fiber there. As you do. And then, so I pulled that top, which it uses like the same muscles as drafting, so it was only like, and it's like a hard pull because I'm like using my Diz to basically draft it off the hackles. It's a lot. So I could only pull a little bit of it before like I got sore. So it took a while to get it all pulled off. But now I am, what would it be, getting closer to being ready for the next stage. So I took my medium gray and I dyed the locks. So these are the locks. I split them into roughly thirds, like pretty severely blowing out the camera, so I'll just grab one of these locks. So this is the one that I dyed with the violet. There's definitely some crud in here too, so not all of it is good, but that's what combing's for. So this looks blue, but it is purple. I swear. So, so the plan is to, what is it? So this is one that I dyed mostly with the violet. This is one that I did with the color Azul. So there's some bright pinks and sort of a pinky purple and a teal color, which isn't quite showing up right on the camera, which is a pity. And then I ended up adding more blue to that one because I wasn't getting the color penetration that I wanted. So all sorts of crap that's falling out of this. And then this one was dyed with the black. So it is much more saturated, and so it has sort of a pink, and then where the black is, it's a little bit more green, if that makes any sense. So black dye, or the black dye that I was using, was comprised mostly of like a green and pink. So, and then with their powers combined, you end up sort of getting these like foresty bits to it, as well as sort of this lighter pink color. But much darker. So I sort of have more of the, so this one being a little bit more pink with dark bits, and then I have my more blue, purpley color, and then I have my piece that is more teal. So I'm going to take these 3 shades of fiber, comb them separately into balls of top, and then combine everything on the hackle. So then the plan being that I'll get a very complicated purple color with this medium gray fleece. As you do. And then I will probably, so I have another bag, which is the lightest shades of sort of white and very light gray, that I will probably dye just like a straight up blue. I just need to figure out which one of my which one of my Wilton's colors are like the purest, simplest blue. Which shouldn't be too crazy. And then the plan would be to spin them as singles end to end with each one of the colors, and then combine them as like a marl yarn. So it should be interesting. The hope would be that I have enough for a sweater. Obviously there's a decent amount of waste going from combs, which is whatever, 20 to 50% waste, and then the hackle is probably a similar amount of waste, but then what I'm taking out is really short, so perhaps that's fine. But I'll probably get, I guess I haven't weighed this to figure out how much waste I have there, and making another basically skein of seconds. So this was this color here, which is Reading. It's a little bit more pink, but this is what I started with, and this is what this fiber has now become, so there might be enough for another skein of seconds here. And then this one has all sorts of interesting colored neps in it because it was the seconds from combing. So it's very soft and lovely, so it'll be nice. It'll be pretty good. But the problem with this was it turned out I didn't have the dye saturation I wanted, so it turned out much more pastel than I wanted. So hopefully I got really nice solid colors. So I tried something to try to make it turn out more solid, but the dye just struck where it wanted to. I did not on purpose try to create multiple colors in every lock, it just happened that way. So I will have to control it in a different way, which is by blending and combining, but such life. So but this is the last of the fiber. So I think after I get my mediums, now purples, into the final top form, then I will start thinking about splitting this into thirds and dyeing it as well. So not too crazy. It's definitely not quite the journey, because weird, whatever. I'm not gonna have lace stuff all out. So not too crazy, but definitely a lot of fiber prep. I think part of it is that was like the first big weekend after Stash Dash, so then it was the case where I wasn't trying to get yardage. I could just work on this rather complicated project to keep it moving along. So I don't know whether or not I'm going to immediately start combing or what I'm going to do, or if I want to just like do a video of combing. I might try doing YouTube Live instead of Instagram Live, just because I have a little bit more control over my webcam than I do phone placement. There are issues with the webcam, but it's nothing It's terrible. There are different issues with the camera. Oh, such is life. So, it is slowly but surely proceeding. The next thing that would happen is then digging into this Romney that I got last year at Rhinebeck. So, quite a lot of fiber and fleece here. So, whatever, we'll make it work out. What I'm pondering about next is actually doing a project with handspun. I think what would it be? One thing that I noted about this trip is while my projects involve a lot of yarn management right now, with intarsia and 7 balls of yarn for both of them. No, one of them's intarsia and 5 balls of yarn, the other one's just 7 balls of yarn. So, I think what I want to do next is actually cast on my pop sizzle out of my handspun. So, it'll be out of the greens and purples. So I spun that specifically for that purpose, so might as well hop to it. I think that will satisfy my itch for having like a more complicated project going, or one that involves more patterning. Or would it be, because right now it's, if I have something going on, it's fine, but it can be dull sometimes too if something's not going on, so. And I'll just keep working through all of these shawl quantities of yarn that I seem to have right now. Because I also have in non-handspun yarn a couple things too, but it might be nice to make the handspun corner a little bit less full. It is what would it be, or what I have right now is it seems like it is quite squished right now, so opening up a little bit of space there would be nice. And then I'll think about what sweater I'm going to end up starting, because we're now sort of in that preparing for fall knitting mood. And likely that would be the handspun breathing space, because that has been on the to knit for quite some time. So it's looking pretty positive for starting that one, which is cool. What would it be? That would also help with some of the backup of yarn happening here. As you do. But it seems like it's going to be a bit more knitting before I get there, because I need to figure out how the sleeve's coming together. Non-trivial here. Okay, so whatever. So in the horizon is shawls and sweaters after shawls and sweaters. So not too bad. Definitely getting excited about yarn school. So that is going to be, or what would it be? I think that's starting the 11th of October and then going through what have you. We'll look at the calendar because it's helpful some days. So that will, what would it be? So that's starting either the 10th or 11th of October, and then I'll be heading back the 15th or 16th before flying out again on the party on the 19th, so we'll have another, what would it be, non-productive week in about a month. I think the schedule's actually going to be pretty quiet for the foreseeable future, though. So I should be able to record on the 22nd and the 29th, and probably the 6th, too. So, next 3 weeks are good. I'm betting I'm not going to record while I'm at yarn school, and I'm definitely not recording at my sister's wedding, so we'll see how things come together. I'm not sure if it turns out that I come back and there's like time to record after yarn school. Maybe I'll try doing that. Just depends on how behind on life I am. Tonight I'm cooking dinner. Super duper positive. Last week no dinner was cooked. Got some knitting done, but not a lot of dinner. Now I'm out of coffee, so it must really be over. So, told you guys the schedule, told you guys what my plans were, showed you my evil dye laboratory, spinning and knitting, a little bit of local flavor about whatever, my life. It was the case for, what was it? See, I missed some of that, though. So, sister's bachelorette party went well. Had a lot of fun in Denver. That was a good time. I didn't have a chance to go to Fancy Tiger. We went to the liquor store instead. It was okay. It worked out just fine. I have no needs for yarn. They're just wants at this point. And then this weekend was my cousin's wedding, so my whole family rented an Airbnb. Took a little bit of walk to figure out where I was. Like, okay, yeah, know where I am now. We ended up getting to have a beach day, which was super duper lovely, and then I got to meet my nephew Dominic and my nephew Cameron. So Dominic is 2 weeks old, doesn't have a lot of personality. Mr. Cameron is nearly 6 months, or whatever, he's 5 months old actually. He's very curious, so he is Curious Cameron. He wants to be facing outwards so that he can see the world, and the world is an incredibly interesting place to him, so, and then he's a big boy, so it makes him happy to do this, but then your arms hurt. And using the leg instead, which has way more power available, not as satisfactory to Mr. Curious Cameron. Not as good. So I'll get to see them, or whatever, I'll get to see my whole family again in October for the wedding, so that'll be a great party indeed. So, I think that's everything, but I didn't get too many pictures of babies in knitwear because the babies weren't in knitwear, so I did discover that my sister Colleen is hoping for a knit toy for the Curious Cameron, so I will have to figure out what makes sense. He is definitely in the carnivorous stick everything in your mouth stage. I think he's close to getting teeth. So, Claire is no longer in the carnivorous stage, but she can remain the carnivorous clay bear. As we do. So I'll have to figure out what a good toy for that is. Apparently the puppy was extremely well received. So I don't know whether or not what toy I would choose for that. It is reasonably fun and entertaining to knit stuffies, so we'll figure something out. There were also, like, vague plans of sweater, but I'm not sure. Outlook uncertain. I guess it is good information to know that whatever, like, roughly what size he is right now, but I think the toy might last a lot longer, and so maybe that'll be the way I go for both of them. We shall see. It might be like communism and they'll both get the same toy. Such is life. Okay. So, it's like longer term. Like, get the breathing space done, and then I will have more headspace for knit toys. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So, take care, guys. Bye-bye.